Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is student Dr. Brett Schill, and today I'll be presenting on diabetes in the Americas as my global health concern. And so just a quick personal, or yeah, quick um, just a quick intro on my personal connection, sorry, to diabetes. It's been a while back, but I spent 2 years in Uruguay in South America as a missionary, where I saw many health complications associated with diabetes, such as blindness, amputated limbs, and other complications. It was very common in my personal life. My father-in-law has type 2 diabetes, and multiple members of his family have had type 2 diabetes, several of which have died due to the complications of end organ disease or end organ damage. And then I have multiple relatives with insulin resistance as well, including that's mostly related to PCOS. And so that's kind of my personal connections there with diabetes. I've seen diabetes and insulin resistance kind of growing, not just in my personal life, but in the society around as well. And I've always had a very high interest personally as well between fitness and health. So diet, lifestyle things, and I feel that there's kind of a disconnect still between medicine and lifestyle health, which lifestyle health has been found to be one of the biggest factors in helping diabetes. So that's just a little intro from me. To define diabetes, according to the WHO, diabetes is a chronic metabolic disease characterized by elevated levels of blood glucose or blood sugar, which leads over time to serious damage to heart, blood vessels, eyes, kidneys, and nerves, which we're all familiar with, diabetes and its effects. Surprisingly, there's about 422 million people worldwide who are estimated to have diabetes, and 1.5 million deaths are directly attributed to diabetes each year. And these cases are increasing every year. And so just quick review, types of diabetes, type 1, type 2, gestational diabetes, and pre-diabetes. With type 1, the pancreas doesn't make enough insulin or makes very little insulin. And so without that, the body can't effectively clear blood or sugar from the bloodstream. And then high levels of blood sugar causes damage to organs and other systems in the body. This is the less common type. Only about 5 to 10% of people have type 1 diabetes. And this is also called juvenile diabetes because it usually develops or is found at a younger age. Then type 2 diabetes, which is the most prevalent type, is about 90 to 95% of the cases, which is what I'm going to focus on a little bit more in this presentation, is where your body produces insulin, but your body does not use it properly. And so, which is also called insulin resistance. And so same as with type 1 diabetes, if the insulin isn't used well, it can't clear glucose from the blood, sugar from the blood, and it causes end organ damage and problems. And so some of the symptoms, so lots of polyuria, urinating lots, always thirsty, weight loss, always hungry, having blurry vision, numbness or tingling hands, tired, dry skin. Just a little graphic here going over some of those common ones. And then complications, as I mentioned a little bit, so end organ damage. So there can be cerebrovascular diseases, retinopathy, and blindness, permanent kidney damages, diabetic foot infections, and peripheral neuropathy, which can lead to gangrene, non-healing sores, and then eventually amputation has to be performed. And then the most common cause of death is usually cardiovascular issues, so heart attacks. And then, so just some quick numbers going to go through some prevalence. So first in the US, so by race, so 13.6% of American Indians, Alaskan Native adults, 12.1% of non-Hispanic Black adults, 11.7% Hispanic adults, and 9.1% Asian Americans, 6.9% non-Hispanic whites. And so with North America and South America, in this presentation, I'm going to focus a little bit more on Hispanic adults, or those currently living in the US and those in Central and South America as well. And fast facts, some other fast facts of diabetes in the US. So there's 38.4 million people estimated to have diabetes in the US currently. And so that's 29.7 million diagnosed and 8.7 million undiagnosed. And as stated before, those numbers are increasing every year. And then the prevalence in South and Central America, this little infographic on the right, you can see some numbers. Those numbers are by thousands, so any number you need to add 3 zeros onto the end to get the full percentage or numbers of those estimates. And so it's taken from many different data sources throughout Central and South America. However, as a disclaimer, this was only Chile and Brazil were the only countries within the last 5 years to update this. So this is behind some. And but in 2021, there were estimated to be 32.5 million people in Central and South America with diabetes diagnosed, and another 10.67 million people undiagnosed. And those numbers are estimated to continue to rise. Let's see. And then, so just some complications. So found from the ClinMed International Library on research for diabetes. So in Chile, they reported that if 50% of diabetic patients could achieve their glycemic goals, then the country would avoid around 14,000 cases of blindness, around 12,500 cases of acute myocardial infarctions, and avoid 22,400 deaths in a 10-year period. In Argentina, some complications commonly were diabetic retinopathy was the #1 cause of non-traumatic blindness. Diabetes is found to be the leading cause of dialysis and the leading cause of death in people with diabetes, cardiovascular disease in Argentina. And in Colombia, showed a 5-fold difference. Here's where you get into a little bit of the lifestyle changes. They showed a 5-fold difference between urban and rural populations. So 7.8% to a 1.4% of diabetes in those populations, which is highly suggestive of lifestyle and diet. And so here's some other risk factors that can play into it that have been being researched. There are genetics, family history, polycystic ovarian syndrome, as I mentioned before, which almost always includes insulin resistance, race, as I went over, and environmental factors is found to be the biggest one, including inactivity, weight gain, and diet. And so for an increased risk with diet, it is made up of regular increased consumption of refined, ultra processed foods and grains, red and processed meats, very sugary beverages, including fruit juices. And so an example of this is Mexico, which is the main consumer of sugary drinks and is also the country with the largest obese population in the world, and which directly relates to a high percentage of diabetes in the population as well. And decreased risk diet, key elements of that with decreasing risk of diabetes includes lots of fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, and decreasing those high risk foods. And then, so a quick, just quick side note, there was a survey that was directed to lots of private practitioners, so general family practitioners in 9 different Latin American countries, and for patients with type 2 diabetes. And they said that although the lifestyle was the biggest factor in changing it, it was also the most difficult patient management challenge was lifestyle with that as well. So not an easy thing to take care of. And here's just a little info, a graphic, little picture showing, as you can see down here in the corner, there's a chart, so showing the colors of the percentage of obesity increases, and then percentage of diagnosed diabetes increases in red. And so the areas with the dark purple are the highest with obesity and diabetes. And as you can see, it's there's more and more purple showing up. This is a graphic of 2019, and these colors have been changing drastically from year to year, increasing with the more and more into the red and purple colors. All right, and then another interesting topic, although it hasn't been very fully researched yet, is genetics. There have been several studies shown that the SLC16A11 may be a potential therapeutic target for type 2 diabetes. And it has been a common gene found throughout those people with diabetes and family history of diabetes. However, there's still lacking evidence in the effectiveness of targeting that gene. And so they're still trying to do some research on that. And then again, so going back to some treatment of diabetes, so the biggest one in prevention or reversal of type 2 diabetes is lifestyle. So there was a diabetes prevention program study, which has been a 20-year study going in trying to help people with diabetes, which quotes, perhaps not surprising, the diet and lifestyle intervention was incredibly effective. After 3 years, the diet and lifestyle group had a 58% lower risk of developing diabetes than the placebo group, placed on a metformin placebo is what it's talking about. And participants ages 16 and older had an even better response with a whopping 71% lower risk of developing diabetes. And the diet and lifestyle effect lasted even after 10 years. Those folks had 34% lower risk of developing diabetes compared to placebo. So huge implications on lifestyle changes and developments, which is one of the things that needs to be targeted. But as stated before, as found in that survey, it's also one of the most difficult. And so in researching kind of some of the steps that are being taken to prevent diabetes and to help intervene and reduce and help manage diabetes in Latin American countries, there's several steps, so such as deployment of community health workers for diabetes screening and delivery of lifestyle modification programs. An example of this is La Federación Argentina de Diabetes, the FAD, or so Argentina Diabetic Federation. And two, or so multiple modes of program delivery beyond face-to-face sessions and information technology to automate, which includes, telehealth, pamphlets of information, just trying to educate and get more information out there to people. And then leveraging pre-existing familiar relationships. That's one of the big focuses for people to help people have some support to help them maintain lifestyle changes, make and maintain lifestyle changes. And then having innovative environmental strategies, such as collaborations with local food stores and markets to promote, healthy behaviors and selling healthy produce and food options. And then here's just kind of a screenshot of a website I got from CDC within the US, that there's a national diabetes prevention program. And so there's tons of different communities and things throughout the US. There's a little more, obviously a few more resources and within states and on the national level for people with diabetes. We can get more information, you can support groups and make those lifestyle changes to help change. And so those are just kind of things I wanted to focus on. And so the biggest things, as stated, are those focuses on lifestyle changes and trying to help decrease those with our ever-changing and more sedentary lifestyles in Central or in the US as well as in other countries. And the availability of processed foods and things, there's definitely a higher need as seen to focus on these lifestyle changes, focusing on better diets, better activity levels, and making people more aware, especially with education through programs, websites, and organizations to reach out to those people and help prevent diabetes. And that's all I had. So there's the reference page. And if you guys enjoyed the presentation.